in a moment. Okay. All right. So everybody, the other person I'm talking with is Jason, and that dog is going crazy. So we just played like a preview match with the Superstar Destroyer, and we're just going to talk about it because we didn't get to record the end of it as well as just our thoughts on it. So, Jason, do you want to go ahead and show them the beast?
So this is a 3D print made by Mills Miniatures on Shapeways. It's actually on loan from a friend of mine. This was before FFG's announcement that they were going to be formally introducing the Superstar Destroyer into the game. So it's actually not quite the same size. It's about an inch. It's about an inch longer than what FFG is going to be coming out with. And then where they have the keyholes are actually a little closer together than what FFG will be using. But when Christian and I played, I was able to make a as close as possible representation of what the firing arcs were going to look like, based on images that FFG had released. So we went with that. Base was a little shorter than what the actual one will look like. It's about 4
So I
inches
guess the
shorter.
side one should have just been a little bit wider. Is that what it should have been?
This should have been to about here.
Okay.
So, but like we said when we were playing, like that's, I lose out on firing at you sooner, vice versa. I can't be
Well,
shot at as
I mean,
soon,
I
but
know it would be a little messy, but why not just print out a larger card so it does just kind of stick out at the end?
the limfac is where the keyholes are.
Oh yeah, I know, but why not just have you can't have the key
Oh,
already,
that, yeah.
have the
Well,
card
that's 11 inches. That's the extent my printer can go.
gone.
I don't have longer paper, so
Oh
I would
well,
have to go get legal paper or something to make it work.
I next time we play, I have some long, and it's actually like a thicker when I was doing those like fake printouts of the
Oh yeah.
trade cards, I was using that, but because it's like a thicker, like glossier paper. So I can loan you one sheet of paper.
Okay. All right. We
For
can do
that.
that next time.
Because that way it's more. Well, one, I mean, if you already had, I know it's not yours, but rather than spending $200, well, I guess you want the. I don't know. Either way,
Oh, I've already pre-ordered. It's coming. I just can't wait until spring to like start testing it.
So one thing that I realized that I didn't realize, and luckily one of the commenters on our video had posted, is gunnery teams doesn't say you can just fire twice from the same mark. It just says more than once. So you could have
Yes.
actually had all three shots come from one arc.
And
I
thank you for that, whoever that commented that. I actually was aware of that loophole with the gunnery teams. So the entire reason I put gunnery teams on there was hoping that maybe 3 targets would present themselves
in
in
the
the front
front.
arc. But because Christian had swarmed the SSD so quickly, I had to divide up my fire anyway. So yes, aware, was not able to use it.
So so I guess that means like gunnery team is essentially an auto include now for the Superstar Destroyer.
It could be.
Because what else would you put on there?
So the Superstars for expansion actually does come with flight controllers, which previously only came with the Victory Star Destroyer expansion. So for Imperial players out there who've been really wanting to get a hold of a flight controllers but couldn't find a Victory expansion, good news. If you get these at SSD, you now have flight controllers. So you could also see this as being a massive carrier, and I actually have the printout of the card real quick just for reference. So we were playing with the command prototype version, so that's probably actually really bad quality. It already has a squadron value of 5, and if you take into account the epic ship's ability to bank a token, well,
So it's
you
6.
6, right? And then expanded hangar bays, another 7. So yeah, the ship has the potential to be a freaking awesome carrier. So hence why it came with flight controllers. So it just depends on what you're wanting to build. If you're wanting to build like a like a Sloan build with this massive stronghold of a ship that takes forever to take down, and then you just send out your hordes of TIE fighters.
Yeah, that's
That
actually a really good point.
Yeah. So, and then the TIE fighters just strip defense tokens away, and then the Superstar Destroyer comes in, mops up, which we all know from our game how important those defense tokens are.
Yeah,
So, I mean, other than that, between flight controllers and gunnery team, I think you're right in the fact that gunnery team is probably an auto include with Superstar Destroyer, and it has been for most part with most Star Destroyers even before then.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm looking through the other ones, and none of the other ones are remotely good enough for the Superstar Destroyer.
Pretty much.
So we cut off early, so we can just give a quick summary of what happened. So I was able to destroy one of your Gazantes with I damaged it with one of my Corvettes, and then my Hammerhead finished it off.
Yep.
And then I was in position to probably blow up your other Gazanti. But I was how much hold because I was my fighters were kind of wrecking shop on you. How much hold did you have left on the
We left
Superstar?
off at 18 hole.
Hey, like so
It
you
started
only
at
had four
22.
left.
It started at 22, and I had 18 left
Oh,
after by what was it, the fourth round? Yeah, by the end of the fourth round, I had 18 hole left.
oh, okay. So you definitely would have survived because
Well, but
well,
I
because
had no more
my
defense tokens.
bombers. But the thing is like my bombers were no longer. A lot of them were tied down, and with you going first, you would have been able to move out of close range of my ordnance cruiser.
At a whopping speed 2 and your ordnance cruiser at speed 3.
No, but like you would have gone first. Like
Oh, right.
two would
Right.
have been enough so that you were out of close range.
Well, where's
And
my
yeah, so I think you would. I think your Superstar Destroyer would have survived partially, and I can say that with a guarantee because um, Ray had already tied up like Dagger Squadron.
Oh, yeah, and I'm looking at the pictures that we took at the toward the end. That's by the sheer amount of health, that's probably plausible. Especially since I had quad turrets on the SSD, so it was just going to chew apart the fighters eventually.
Right.
Um,
So
but you probably would have still won based on points because I didn't destroy anything.
you killed two
Fighters,
X-wings,
yeah,
but that was it. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Like points wise, I will claim victory,
right,
but I think your Star Destroyer survived, and
yeah.
and I think another reason why I probably would have won is because I also had a handful of tokens.
Mm-hmm. Of
Because
victory tokens, yeah.
so is that the last time you're ever going to go against Precision Strike with a Super Star Destroyer?
I don't know. So I kind of the whole beginning of the game, I kind of messed myself up um, when I landed on that debris field. So that kind of messed up my angle of attack because I was hoping to just go straight at your ships.
Oh, but I was going
Um,
to always flank you. I wasn't going
no, I
to,
know.
even when
Yeah,
I thought your gunnery team would only count for two. There's no way I was ever going to stay in your front arc.
yeah. No, it counts for 3. I could get 3 shots off if I had something in range in my front arc. I could get 3 off. So yeah, I'm looking at the pictures. And I'm also looking at my notes from the game. I mean, Precision Strike definitely was hairy, but it was better than Minefield, and it was better than Ion Cannon because you would have had Ion Cannon plus Dodonna's Pride, which
Well, as
both those together just
Minefield,
hurt.
I agree with you because each one of those has a chance to do a critical.
Mm.
But with the ion cannon, it doesn't do a face up damage unless it would go through your shields.
No,
And
no, no, but it would strip my tokens away. That's
but it only strips away one. Like I can spend one of your tokens.
which you would spend both the braces. Like turn 1, turn 2, both braces are gone. Turn 3, probably. Turn 4, I probably have no
You don't
more
lose it.
rejerks.
Like it would just be one of your braces would be red. That's all. And then it would go back.
Right, but if I used them, so like by
Right.
turn 2
Yeah.
or 3, if I use them,
That's
then
true.
you could just spend the spent tokens.
But I made you strip like how many like that one critical. What killed you was that it went back face down. So I was like, okay, flip it
You
up.
could just keep
Flip
flipping
it back.
up
Yeah.
over and over. If I had a shuttle, I think I would have been a little braver to do ion cannon because then I could just have the
Yeah.
shuttle go ahead, move the token out of the way so that
Right.
you could use the ion cannon effect. But because this thing is so freaking big, you know, how
Yeah.
successful am I going to be moving all 3 tokens? Because you're just going to cluster them where you know I'm going to be.
Well,
So
if I were you, I think I probably would have gone with ion cannon in the future if that
yeah,
comes
I'll
across your
try that.
plate.
I'll try that next time. I mean, but you see where my like thought was like
Yeah.
this thing was kitted out to be a fighter killer. So fine, let the fighters come to me. It just got a
Right.
little hairy with if I didn't have that particular card, I think it would have gone a little better. But it was like a perfect storm of having a card that strips away tokens, you put it back face down, and since it was the only face down card I had, you could just keep
Right.
spamming that one card and strip away my tokens. It was just the perfect storm kind of thing. If it was
Yeah.
like a shield one, okay, I don't have any shields anymore, but I still have tokens, so I can
Yeah.
still defend against attacks. Um,
Another thing I realized is when you had Kalis, you can add a dice of any color. We happen to be adding blue each time, but you could have been adding a black.
Probably, but yeah, I think the reason I was adding blues though was so that I always had the leading shots option. So if I
That's
got a
true.
bad roll, which I forgot to use in the first round, but by the second round I remembered, ooh, I can still do leading shots. So I just kept adding a blue, so in case I got 2 nothings, I could spend one, get another chance, and still get a hit. Um, Plus 2 blues, you always have the chance for an accuracy. You can freeze Shara's scatter, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's
So
fair. But I guess if you were ever going against like Gold Squadron, you should have been using.
oh, yeah, yeah. Probably a black and a blue at that point. Probably would have been better. Yeah. A more guaranteed hit. So,
But either way, I like that Super Star Destroyer. It's a great ship. I mean, it's gonna be annoying to face, but at the same time, like it's fun to take it on. And I think the main thing is like you just need to be brave and like just go all in on it,
yep.
um, or set your ships to zero and then bank a lot of tokens and like run away when it gets in range. Like that's the thing when you're playing against this thing is either you need to completely just like be a coward and run away or just
Which
come
the rebels are.
fire on that
So,
superstar destroyer.
so I think I perfectly agree with you in that. So if you're a rebel player for people watching this, um, the Superstar Destroyer is kind of true to form in that it's meant to scare you. Um, the thing is, you can't be scared of it. So if somebody brings it to a 400-point tournament, like don't freak out because for one, it's the price of 2 Star Destroyers with some of the benefits, none like some of the benefits, all of the weaknesses associated with that. Because with 2 Star Destroyers, you can flank, you can have one up to speed 3, one up to speed 2, and you can kind of, you can
Yeah,
do a lot more. You have a lot more flexibility. Um, Rebel player can focus on one and kill it. The Superstar Destroyer, you have to focus everything on it because it's got so much hull and so many shields. But therein lies its weakness because it's very easy to focus on. It's very easy to overwhelm, as Christian showed. So don't be afraid of it. Swarm it. Get in close and personal. Basically, do the whole Akbar thing. Or actually, that was Lando. Point blank range, closer. Yes, I said closer. But for the Imperial player, and this was only my first time using this, so I'm hoping that Christian and I can do another test at some point. For the Imperial player, I will say that this is a very expensive ship, and you need to be very careful how you spend your points. I kitted out the Star Destroyer in every upgrade slot except Turbolaser, and that left me barely enough points for 2 Gazantes and a handful of fighters.
See, the thing is that I like. I was looking at it. And I was looking at the different upgrades, and the fact that you get to fire 3 times. I think this makes the case that you should have every upgrade slot with something. Like I think you
Yeah,
should have had a turbo laser upgrade because if you had the quad turbo laser that if the ship's faster than you add an extra blue. I would just set yourself at speed 1 and do that, and then
yeah.
all your arcs
So
would have gotten
it
better.
came down. It came down to either quad laser turrets, which gives you a counter 1 against fighters, or the the exact one you're talking about, the quad battery, whatever.
Oh, are they both modifications so you can only have one? Is that
Nope, they're both 5 points. I was down to I only
Oh,
had 5 points left, and it was like, all right, do I want to be offensive with this thing, or do I want to make this thing tanky as hell? And so originally I had Instructor Goran on it, who was just going to already give a counter to all the fighters around the Star Destroyer.
mhm.
But in playtesting, uh, in virtually playtesting with a friend of mine, where we walked through what would happen, we realized that TIE fighters can get killed off pretty quickly. So Goran is kind of a waste of points. It's a good idea considering that you have this much surface area
Yeah.
that Goran can give counter to other fighters. But once the fighters are gone, he's a waste of points. So eventually, I switched to Callus, and then I realized Callus adds a die, so I could theoretically give the Star Destroyer counter 2. So
Right.
it'd always be rolling counter 2 against heroes at least. So that's essentially the method of thinking in trying to make it defensible against a fighter swarm. And the extra blue on every arc, it probably would have helped a little bit. It wouldn't have done much good against your full health
Yeah.
MC75 unless I
Yeah,
got
my
some good shots
MC10.
out.
Well, I was also doing engineering command every turn.
Yep.
So and with Antilles that's 6 engineering each point. I think I'm gonna make a ruling of my opinion. I think for a 400-point game, I think Callus and quad laser turrets is what you should do as a fighter's defensive measure, but then just load out everything else. Get that turbo laser upgrade because
Mhm.
the fact is when you're putting spinal ornaments on a MC80 Liberty, you're hoping to use it twice. When you put it on a Super Star Destroyer, you're hoping to use it 3 times. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say spinal because it doesn't take that long for it to get to
Mm.
your sides. But I think quad turbo laser turrets would be
Yeah,
really good.
because you'll always be going slower than everybody else around you. So that's
It,
actually a good point. And for 5 points, it's not too bad. Um,
yeah, so I think in with the offensive slot, I really think if you're not making it a carrier itself, I think you should go for that being your defensive nature, and give yourself gunnery teams, give yourself quad turbo lasers, give yourself quad lasers as a defense, and Callus is I think a great investment. Now,
yep.
however, though, for Carillion conflict, when you have 500 points, or when you're in an all-out assault and you could activate friendly squadrons around you, maybe that's when you go a
I
super
think
Star
I think
Destroyer
that would
carrier.
I think that would be a carrier for Corellian conflict because at that point you don't really necessarily need a weapons platform. You need an armored fleet support
Right.
ship, and that's where the 2 fleet command slots, which is absolutely crazy, having 2 fleet command slots on the same ship. But this is awesome. Shields to max. Maybe I would probably for Corellian conflict, I would probably put intensify firepower and entrapment formation. That way, you have that extra hit when on attacks, and you can change your speed up or down as needed.
And maybe put
Um,
like Wolf Yavarin on there so you get that token back.
no, it already has that. Remember, epic ships have a built-in your Lauren effect in that if you spend but if you spend a token and then you can keep the token. No,
Right.
you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. That way you can
Because
just keep it and keep doing it. Pretend,
Right.
yeah,
That way you can do
yep,
trap formation every single turn and you never lose it.
right. No, nope, you're right. And that, yeah. Or I had a Gazanti cruiser like nearby, just banking its tokens or something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Well, because Gazanti's in a fleet, you could still give it to a like an allied ship, right? It doesn't. It just says like to a friendly vessel. It doesn't
correct.
say.
You don't
Yeah.
have to give it to the ship that's in its central fleet. So, which is why when I built this list, like I was thinking in a 400 point game, but I was also kind of playing around with what would I want a Corellian conflict command fleet to look like. Two
Yeah.
Gazantis, like because you don't have a whole lot of points left for the SSD, two Gazantis with CommsNet to me are like an obvious choice, especially with Piet. If this ends up being Piet's actual ability, which this is from Star Wars Armada Wiki, so it may be right, it maybe not be. It's just so somebody typed in, but basically Piet gives you an ad hoc Thrawn ability in that if you have a token, you can use once per ship. That ship can use a different type of token as a full dial, as long as it's not the same dial that they're activating with. So that's kind of cool. So you can do a focus firepower, and then if you have a squadron token, bam, it's already a full up squadron dial. You can activate squadrons with it. So I was kind of thinking like definitely want to have a Piet commanded super star destroyer with a couple of Gazantis with CommsNet, and you just keep throwing tokens of the Star Destroyer's way. But you have
But
a really good point on Wolf, Yularen, just always giving the token for focus firepower. And then when you need it, you can have someone send you a nav token for
for
trapment.
at least the fleet support role, I definitely like for this ship is gonna sing in Corellian conflict. It's gonna be great, but the all out assault, like oh my gosh, like it's just gonna be. And that's the funny thing is like in the all out assault, the rebels are gonna have to choose: do we go against everything else, or do we focus everything on that superstar destroyer and just hope that we don't lose
Right.
bad? Like if we either
Or
take that
divide
down
or
and
divide and conquer. Focus on a few Star Destroyers or a few victories. Take those down one at a time, and then just bank up points to where it doesn't matter if the Super Star Destroyer is untouched. If you
yeah,
end up banking more attack points, it really, I think, so everyone's kind of freaking out on forums about this thing coming out, and I already have talked with some diehard Rebel players that are all pissy about why don't we get anything? Why do the Imperials get the big shit? Well, I think this edition brings out the best in both factions because now as a Rebel player it forces you to think more tactfully
yeah,
about how you're going to take the objective, how you're going to engage this Imperial fleet. Because true to form, rebels can't go toe to toe with the full might of the Imperial fleet.
right.
That
No,
just
I'm
doesn't
fine
it
with
just
it. Same
doesn't
with
work.
Imperial Star Destroyer. When that first came out, and Home One came out with it, you couldn't go front to front because that was a really crappy front arc ship. So you had to go around the sides and use your side
Broadsides.
arc against them. Now
Which,
the
by the way, that is the other thing that scares me besides a fighter swarm with this thing is two death pickles coming side by side of Star Destroyer and just laying into it with Akbar. Because it doesn't matter if you have advanced projectors and 6 defense tokens, that's going to get spent really quickly.
yeah,
So,
I think advanced projectors was a good choice for you, but I think a lot of I mean I think there's actually multiple defensive upgrades that I think would be a good choice for that ship.
the other one I was looking at was um, as a cheap defensive retrofit was the Blast Doors one, but it's only 3 out of 22 hull. So, but of actually using it, is it gonna really like make a difference? And it's only face down, so it was like, well, that'd be a good cheap defensive retrofit. But the other one that I wanted, is just being too expensive, was um early warning system.
Yeah,
Like
Problem is,
ECMs,
so many arcs.
right? That's the problem. ECMs didn't really make a whole lot of sense because you've got 6 tokens, 2 of each type. So probably wouldn't actually need to use ECMs until you're in trouble anyway. By
Yeah,
that point, you probably don't have much shields left. So it really because it has 6 arcs, advanced projectors to me was screamed the loudest because now for the first time you can take damage like uh
half a board away.
yeah, basically like you can take damage 12 inches away on one end of the ship and then move it 12 inches back to the rear of the ship. Like
Yeah. Now, I'm
so
curious if there's going to be a version of the ship that has two defenses upgrade slots because the assault cruiser for the um, MC80 Home One edition does have that, and having the early warning system and electronic countermeasures is like it's particularly good. It makes it very durable. I'm
mhm.
curious to see if there will be a version where you could have advanced projectors and maybe redundant shields.
Maybe, hopefully. Um, FFG has been keeping the other they call them sheets. They don't call them cards, which is kind of funny. They've been keeping the other 3 sheets uh a secret until I don't know when they're going to reveal the rest of them. Probably not till the ship um is actually out. But it looks like someone was able to get at least a sneak peek of what the other 3 cards are going to be titled, and there's going to the other 3 are going to be the Star Dreadnought Assault prototype. So it might go into that whole what you were talking about, maybe like an MC80 version having 2
Yeah,
defensive retrofits, or maybe it's going to be kind of like the Simoon where it has 2 turbo laser upgrade slots,
yeah.
or maybe even 3. 3 turbo laser upgrade slots would be kind of interesting for a Superstar Destroyer. Um,
Oh,
and
XI7s I think would be a good upgrade for this too.
yeah,
Quad turbo lasers, but XI7s when you're doing it 3 times, that's brutal.
yeah. So I think the Star Dreadnought Assault prototype is still going to be uh tournament tournament legal as far as it still being enough points under that you can still use it in a 400 point fleet. So it'll probably be kind of the alter ego of the command prototype, maybe not having some command slots. Maybe it'll have 2 turbolaser slots, 2 ion cannon slots. I don't know, but it might. That's what I could see it going. Now, that said, the Executor 1 class and the Executor 2 class are the other 2 cards that they're keeping a secret. Those are probably going to be your epic style, Krellian Conflict and Beyond, like overboard ships of just having probably them being like 300 points or more and just having a crap ton of upgrades and firepower.
Yeah,
I cannot wait for those because I have been looking forward to doing 600 point battles at some point, whether they're official or not.
yeah.
But yeah, so
I
be
mean,
interesting
I
what
want
comes
to
up.
play with that ship as much as possible. Like, I definitely think we should do a even though I think it would be a strong disadvantage for the rebels, but I think we should do another all-out assault style. Just have it end at 6 500 point lists.
I would I would be game to try 4 500 point lists because last time we did 3 fleets that took like an entire afternoon into evening. But I'd be game for another like 2 fleets versus 2 fleets. I think it's a little bit more manageable, especially if it's only 2 people.
Hmm.
Um, because then you only have 2 fleets to keep up with. That's still pretty good synergy for your rebel side because you could end up doing Sato and Akbar, or Sato and Dadana actually would be
Yeah, I guess it
probably the
depends
most
on like
outstanding.
who because yeah, it's like who's I would probably maybe choose one of those admirals, and then I have to choose the admiral that it works on, and I would probably choose if I want to bring down the Superstar Destroyer, which sounds like a fun strategy.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
if you ended up doing like a couple of MC75s and a couple of liberties. Sato and Dodonna would be a really, to me, would be the best combination because
Oh
they
yeah, because
complement
right,
each
because you
other.
could swap out those black die with even or those red die with even more black die. So you're rolling like 6 black die.
They have some unusual synergy with Krillin Conflict in that the way they're written, they can kind of complement each other because it can be any fighter that can be in range. Now,
Right.
granted, it's only a Sato ship getting those extra dice, but if you get a crit and it goes through, Dodonna's like any card that's a face up, I get to choose it. So they have some unusual synergy with each other in that would probably be a good combination. As
Yeah.
far as Imperials, I want Tarkin to work so bad, but he's so gosh darn expensive. Um, he would make sense for a Superstar Destroyer command prototype, and being that he's going to be using those tokens pretty quick. And I would probably even want a Sovereign equipped Star Destroyer nearby so that I can swap tokens out as needed.
But why put him on the Super Star Destroyer? Because like he works best when you have a whole bunch of ships because you're giving out more tokens that way. I would think the Super
Well,
Star Destroyer would work best with
I'll have
like Sloane.
I'll have 1,000 points to play with, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to fit some other ships into there. But you're right. So that's the
Well,
problem
because
that you run
Tarkin's
into.
ability is only for his fleet. It's not all the ships.
Oh, you would say put it on the other fleet that has more ships and then
Right.
just move the tokens over
Yeah.
to. Yeah. No, that makes sense because Sovereign also reads that you can do it for any friendly ship nearby. So
Yeah.
that's actually a good point. Um, so that's the other problem is that Tarkin's expensive. His ability only works on one fleet. So it brings me back to kind of Piet. If Piet is only 22 points, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for another cheap Imperial Admiral. That's awesome. Piet would be my second choice. I don't think I would do Thrawn with the Superstar
No.
Destroyer. He's a little expensive, and he doesn't really give you that all that lot of flexibility. Thrawn works better with a lot of ships because then they all benefit from his dial. So I think that brings me back to eventually
I'm
Darth Vader could work if you're really being aggressive. I would like to see what the assault prototype or one of the executor cards looks like because if they're a lot more aggressive, Darth Vader would be a good pick with having 6 defense tokens to
right.
reroll dice.
I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't use the Emperor. I thought that was a pretty cool,
It's a cool
power,
ability.
very offensive, and it works
Yeah,
well for Super Star Destroyer because it matters how many enemy ships there are, not your own ships.
correct. I think the thing that was preventing me from using him was he really only works if the fleet you're going up against is fairly predictable. So if you had like a ton of hero squadrons that all had scatter and you had a couple of GR-75s with BCCs on them, I would
Hmm.
probably go with the Emperor in that situation because I can freeze your scatter.
Right,
So you can't use scatter at all for one
and
turn.
then focus on those ships.
Right.
Right.
Same thing with like if I'm going up against two MC-75s and I know that those redirects or heck even those braces are really good, so I'm going to save them, and I say nope, you can't use braces this turn. That would probably be I'm not comfortable with playing with him yet just because you have to be able to have that kind of foresight into how your opponent is going to be fighting, or at least have a flexible fleet enough to where you can take advantage of his ability.
Well, don't
So
you put down every one? So I mean, every. So I don't see like wouldn't it work with every enemy fleet that you put all the defense tokens, right?
correct, but like for example with your fleet, yours was kind of diverse. You had a CR 90 that had redirects and evades, a redirect and evades. You had a MC-75 that had brace and redirect, and then you had a whole bunch of squadrons that had scatter. So,
Well, only one.
oh, you had
Only
one squadron. Oh, you had
I
one
had a
squadron
bunch
with
of
scatter.
braces.
Right, that's what it was. So I probably could have used the Emperor in that probably the best common denominator would have been braces, that you can't use braces for a turn, which actually would have messed up your Jan
Yeah.
Or's defensive screen. So in that respect, Emperor probably would have been pretty good. He's expensive. That's what it came down to. He's like, man, he's expensive. I want to put some fighters onto this list, so I just went with Piet.
So, but for the Emperor, I can still use that defense token. I just lose it though, right? That's
Let's see.
I thought
Place one
that's not
defense
great.
token each type. Blah blah blah. Until the end of the round, if an enemy ship or squadron spends a matching token during its spend defense token step, you discard the token. Oh yeah, so he's like a uber
Intel
intel
officer.
officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even then, that makes me even less excited about him, because you would still be able to use your brace tokens. You would just end up losing them, or you could just choose, I'm not going to use them this turn, I'm going to save them for the next turn. So then I have to either choose that same token next round, or I have to choose something different. I don't. 35 points. I don't see, me personally, I don't see using him with a Superstar Destroyer. That's just me. I see him being used with like some type of Demolisher build,
Oh, okay.
like
Well, I
with
can
like a
see him
much
actually
more.
being on the Super Star Destroyer, where when you're in long range, you're like, okay, no evades, or if you lose,
They could still use them. They'll
right,
just
but
lose
then
them.
but it's gone. So that makes their turbo laser reroute. Like if you have a bunch of Corvettes in front of you,
Mm.
you're like, okay, just do your evades. I got my gun. You like, three of them are in my front arc. Are you really going to take all? What? Once you get that double hit, are they going to be like, ooh, I'm going to go ahead and like almost have the ship blow up just so I have an evade? No, they're going to lose the tokens.
Right.
And
But
then
as a
get
real
in a little
player,
bit closer. Then you take away their redirects, and then when they get really close, then you take away their brace.
right? But you as a real player know that, like, because you have two evades on your Corvettes, you're okay with losing one, because you're going to get close to where you're not going to need them anyway. So if you're playing as an aggressive rebel player, it's like, okay, fine, take my evade, take my other one on turn 2. I'm going to get in close, and I'm going to use Tadana's Pride to give you a face up, or I'm going to use Overload Pulse to like strip your tokens away. The Corvettes are usually end up being expendable to a certain extent. So yeah, I don't know. I need to play with him. For me, the Super Star Destroyer is a more defensive type of ship.
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine is a very aggressive ability that would work, I think, a lot better on like a double ISD build or some type of Demolisher build, where you can get in close and you can really rattle your enemy by saying, all right, Intel Officer on brace tokens everywhere. If you use
Yeah.
them, you lose them, and then knowing that Demolisher is going to get in close and wreck your face, like, it really makes you like, ooh, do I want to spend my brace token and take less damage this time, or do I want to save it for when Demolisher is going to be in close?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
we'll
like
see. That is the beauty of Armada, in that you got a lot of creative people out there who come up with some really interesting like tactics and synergies with some of these cards, and so we might end up seeing him used in a different way.
True. Yeah, there's a lot of synergy already with this game. So I guess, is there anything else about the Superstar Destroyer?
Well, I wanted to ask your opinion, since we're talking about epic ships. So FFG has left the door open that there are going to be more epic ships. So what's your opinion on them bringing the Viscount into
Um,
Armada?
I mean, I mean, I'm okay with that, but I rather have the rebels have to like be, because that the Viscount was like the really big rebel Mon Calamari, like dreadnought, right? Yeah. I mean, maybe like wave 15 or something. Like, I don't want that yet. I want to have a few rounds of rebels having to outsmart the Imperial player, rather than like the MC80 Liberty, where like, all right, I'm going toe to toe now with like these sides aren't all that different anymore. Like, I like the asymmetric version of the warfare. So to be perfectly honest, before I see a Viscount, I could see a Trade Federation battleship.
Mm, yeah, like the Lucre Hulk, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that would be fun. Is
I
that
mean, especially
considered?
now that X-Wing is going into, they have some Clone War era ships now.
They are definitely making it look like they're going to be opening up Clone Wars era factions stuff. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet because I kind of like keeping Armada Galactic Civil War only, or like Galactic Civil War and beyond. I mean, the reason I brought up the Viscount is because we already have E-wings, and E-wings are from the non-canonized expanded universe beyond the regular movies. So if you have E-wings, I mean, the Viscount was the same era, the E-wings, or maybe not even a Viscount, maybe like a new cruiser of some sort.
You could take the Shield ship that was in one of the Lando books.
Oh, that thing. That thing was funny. Yeah, that big ferry with a big old shield on the front to get you close to a mining planet and not get baked by the sun. Yeah, I
Right,
remember that.
exactly. So you could have that be like, you know, 22 hull and
It'd
you
just be a
may,
soaker, a
yeah,
hit soaker. Yeah,
exactly.
that'd be interesting.
And you would have to also make some kind of mechanic where you can't fire, where enemy ships can't fire through it. But
Oh, like
like,
some type of title where like if if this ship obstructs the shot of another ship, you
yeah,
can't fire on the obstructed ship. That'd be
what
interesting.
an enemy ship. I could see you're still firing obstructed on, because like I could see you just sneak around the edges, then you fire, and then you go back. Even though like this movement doesn't like facilitate that.
Well, it could be like you could use it to like get in close to like if you were attacking a Superstar Store, you could use that to get in close to the front arc, and then you have your little maneuverable ships, then come
Yeah,
around
go
from the
off on
shield
the
ship,
sides. Yeah.
and then swarm like you were doing if you're not able to outflank it. So that'd be a interesting. I really want to see. I'll say it again. I have been waiting for them to bring out the freaking dreadnought. I want the dreadnought. And for
Yeah.
those who may not remember, the dreadnought kind of looked like a little Battlestar Galactica ship, but it's from the original Thrawn books. And I've always loved the dreadnought. In fact, that it was used by both sides, both the rebels and the Imperials. So I really wanted like another medium ship for the rebels because they only have one. Um,
Oh yeah, you're right. The assault frame.
Imperials have two, three. Imperials have three, but only one's really like yeah, the Victory, the carrier, and then
Interdictor.
the interdictor. Yeah, but I really wanted another medium ship that
Yeah.
the rebels could use, but it'd be one of those like kind of like an X-wing where you had some ships that could be either faction. I
Hmm.
wanted something like that for Armada, where you had a ship that was a really decent all-around medium capital ship and you could swap it for Rebel or Imperials. And I envisioned that it would have probably four command dials because they were old and they were crew intensive. But that would be that would be like a perfect flagship for Garmbel Iblis, who has sadly not
Right.
been seeing a whole lot of love.
That's true.
But that would have been a perfect ship for him because if he had like, which was his flagship, by the way, in the original books. Um, I forgot what it was. It was like the something Hermit Peregrine. I forgot what the name of it was now, but that would have been perfect for Garm because he could have that as his flagship. Bank 4 tokens.
Right.
Um, maybe have like a title card of some sort where he gets where he gets a fleet command. Now you've got a better alternative than the Pelta. Now you have like a decent,
Gosh, I hate the
tinky
Pluntos.
little dreadnought. Yeah, yeah, a decent little like
By trigger.
firing platform that can also be a fleet support, ship.
Right.
Obviously, it's not going to have as much firepower as MC-80, MC-75, and certainly nothing to the extent of a victory. Maybe it could go. Maybe it'd be like 3 red and a blue on the side arcs, and something like that, to where it's decent firepower standoff ship. But it's slow. It's crew intensive. It's ungangly, but that'd be a perfect ship for rebels to use to fill that fleet command gap, and vice versa. The Imperials have something that's a little bit in between a victory and a raider, where you don't necessarily have enough points for a victory, but you still need one more medium firing platform. You can throw in a dreadnought. So
Yeah,
anyway,
no, I agree. I think the Dreadnought will be a great ship. I'm fine with them opening up other eras as long as they make it like point, like for example, the Venator like Star Destroyer class. I could see it being a great carrier. Not all, but I think it would be cheaper than the Imperial ships. Same thing with like their other, like I think their capital ships should be maybe almost as many hull, but just not as good of a ship. But like
hmm
especially with the being a much better carrier and maybe have like a built-in with its title like a rapid deploys because it could open up that ventral like hangar bay and stuff. So
right. Well, the Venator has been a very one of the most popular what if ships since Armada came out, and there have been numerous um,
because I remember
art.
even in the Star Wars Empire at War game, you could unlock that on certain maps. Like it was one of like the like if you controlled a certain like asteroid base, you could get that ship.
Yep, yep. And was that in the original? I might have been in a mod. I can't remember if they actually.
No, no, it was in the original game. Like it was
Oh,
only
you're
on
right.
certain
No, you're
maps.
right.
It's like
You're
where
right.
you could buy like the Z95 Headhunter and stuff like that.
Right, right. No, you're right. You could buy it from the mercenaries or whatever. They'd be left over. I'm trying to pull up what people have in the past assigned the Venator. Use kdyards.com, which if anyone who's watching this, highly recommend. They've got a lot of custom content on there for what if ships. Yeah, here we go. So I think one of the more popular versions of the Venator have been 85 points, so about the same as a victory, 7 hull, 1 hull less essentially. 5 squadron command, like you were talking about, a fairly high, carrier ability. Um It only has 1 die less in the front of a victory, has 2 red, 3 blue. Side arcs, that makes sense. It's got 3 blue and a red, so it can be a fairly good close-in broadsider like we saw in
Hmm.
episode 3. The only thing I may not necessarily agree with is that it actually does go up to speed 3 though. It it
Yeah,
flies it
I
flies like
could.
a star destroyer,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it's got 2 braces. I don't know, that seems a little overpowered to me for 85 points, but that's like that seems to be what one person had in mind for it, and then that's an imperial version of it. This person put it at 100 points for 9 hull. So yeah, there's some different ideas, different concepts out there, but there are like
So, what do you think's going to happen first? Scum and Villainy faction being introduced, or Clone Wars era introduced, or like the I don't think there's enough ship types yet for like the like post like New Republic era. I don't think there's enough for that for yet. I think when this new trilogy ends, maybe. But I think they're either gonna do the like I think Scum and Villainy or Clone Wars era is gonna be brought in. What do you think will be next? Are you still there? All right. Well, I think I lost them, but that kind of that's a question for an audience. So, what do you think will be next? Clone Wars era or New Republic or a Scum and Villainy faction. All right, and so I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. We will hope to have a. Oh, are you back?
So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
The
I was just wrapping it up because I figured, like, so my one last question is: do you think Clone War era, Scum and Villainy faction, or New Republic era? What do you think will be next?
based on some conversations I had with a few people, I'm getting the impression that FFG is considering going the Clone Wars route. Um, and some of the reasoning behind that is you can see that Disney has already re-releasing or re-airing the Clone Wars show based on popular demand. Um, you're seeing Clone Wars enter the X-wing game. You just with the new Legion game, they've already announced. Guess what? We're bringing Clone Wars into Legion. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
makes
going that route of like, hey, Star Wars fans, we're really sorry about Last Jedi. Let's bring in some nostalgia and bring Clone Wars back in the mix so you like us again. So, uh, unfortunately, I think because of that, that's probably why we're going to see Clone Wars, and that's just because of the higher powers that be want to bring back Star Wars popularity, and Clone Wars is a very popular, very popular chapter of Star Wars. Uh,
One thing that could be interesting is I would really like to see a Clone Wars expansion for Star Wars Rebellion.
Yes, that would be actually really cool. That's a really fun board game,
And it has
and
a lot of prequel planets already on the board.
it really does. Yeah, that would be actually really cool. That
And
would be a
instead of trying
crazy
to
expansion.
find the separatists, trying to find a rebel base, you would be trying to find you would have to either capture like the. I think I could see it is like you have to capture the Trade Federation Council and the head of state.
Yeah, basically doing what Anakin does in the third episode, where you find where they're hiding and blow them to
After
pieces.
Grievous had been killed, and
Right.
Dooku.
Yeah,
So
I can see that. I
I
can
could
see
see
that.
like you either have to capture, or kill, and especially with you could bring in so many heroes on both sides. And the board is fine with like you would need new pieces, but you could use the same board.
Yeah, it would be a much pricier expansion than the Rogue One expansion. It'd probably be like a $30-$40 expansion, but
I would
that's
buy it.
doable. I
I,
would
I
too.
love the Rogue One expansion. Like I only play that version now.
Yeah, the
There's no
same.
reason not to. It
I
made the
like having
content
the
so much
shield.
better.
I like having the shield bunker. I like having the little Imperial tank. Like, just it's a perfectly flawless um expansion to the game that really doesn't add a whole lot of like sometimes when you have expansions, they like completely change the game and kind of make it a little more complicated. Rogue
Or you
One
make
just
it
fits
longer.
seamlessly in, or
Yeah.
makes it longer, right? But that expansion just fits seamlessly in with the game.
Yeah.
Um, one last thing I will say, kind of highlight out there is that I would love to see Scum and Villainy brought into Armada and have a three faction battle. I don't think it's ever going to happen, unfortunately.
Why not? I mean, you have all the Mandalorian ships, the Forces of Corruption expansion in Star Wars Empire at War. I think brought in enough ships that you could have a decent one. Plus, you could just have it that the Scum and Villainy have their own versions of the CR-90.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'm building my own Scum and Villainy fleet regardless because I've actually it's everything's in that box over there. It's not painted yet, so it's not good for public release yet. But I have a fully built Scum and Villainy fleet that I just need to paint. I will be bringing that in, no problem. Whether FFG will do that officially, probably never. But that's okay. I've already got the Mandalorian Star Vipers. I've got Skip Ray Blast Boats. I've got
I don't know. People thought the Superstar, like I always thought the Superstar Destroyer was going to come in. One, because they had epic ships in X-wing. Why not do it for the Superstar
yeah.
Destroyer?
It was bound to
So
happen.
I think I think anything that they do in X-wing, they will do in Armada. They're hinting at Clone Wars in X-wing. They're gonna do it in Armada. I bet they already have Scum and Villainy. I think they're gonna bring Scum and Villainy, especially like if if the hinting, spoiler alert, Darth Maul into Solo, if he has his own criminal faction, then like they could have him be like a admiral for it and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Right. You definitely have a lot of potential for like a scum and villainy fleet, and then you can have like Boba Fett and
Well,
Bosk,
all
some
the
of those
bounty
Imperial
hunters.
guys, all the bounty hunters being ported over to Imperials. Like that's it works
I could see the CR
on a
90
financial.
going over as well, and the
Mhm,
Hammerheads.
mhm,
Because those ships were just super common, like that's why they worked so well for the rebels. Because they get now, it's only the Mon Calamari cruisers that won't carry over, but I think practically everything else in the rebel arsenal could also go over.
yeah. Well, I liked the Kadalbi battleship from Forces of Corruption way better than the
Oh yeah,
Moncal, and I'm excited to paint that one. And now I finally have the Aggressor big gun.
yeah.
Very excited to be painting that as well. So I want Scum and Villainy to be in Armada. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to happen. So I've already just like gotten enough custom stuff to where next
It'll
time I
happen.
do because next time I do Corellian Conflict, I want to try out a 3-faction Corellian
Ooh.
Conflict. I don't know how it's going to work. I'll probably start small and do like one player per faction, kind of deal. But I want to somehow work that in and figure out if that type of campaign is doable. Anyway,
That's interesting. Like it would be hard to figure out like the
who's fighting who?
changing factions, like shifting alliances. But I don't know. That's interesting. Well, I hope to play that version. So this has gone on for quite a while, so I guess
Yeah,
we can.
sorry about that.
But no, it's good. I think there's a great conversation, and I definitely want to play another preview game as soon as possible until I bring down one of those superstar destroyers, and I'll give you a piece of paper to have the proper length length for it. All right.
I
Well,
appreciate
thanks,
that.
Jason. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, thanks for your time, and we'll until next battle.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Bye.